Cuphead, known for its beautiful hand-drawn art style, stellar soundtrack, and its extreme difficulty. Just the other day, I was waiting in line somewhere with a Cuphead t-shirt on, and someone walked up and said they literally hated the game because it was too hard. But in all honesty, I don't think it's as hard as everyone says. And to prove this, I'm going to try and beat the entire game without equipping a single thing. That means no charms, no supers, only the pea shooter. I am going to skip over the airplane levels because those have been left mostly unchanged. Starting off aisle 1, we have the root pack. The root pack is left mostly the same, essentially a tutorial boss with not much of a challenge. The only part that posed any sort of threat was the carrots from the last phase, because it was kind of difficult to hit them precisely. Still a super easy and fun boss fight, 1 out of 10 difficulty. Moving on from the root pack, we're on to our boy Goopy Legrand. Even easier than the root pack, you only need to stay back and take your time, and there isn't really a challenge in this boss fight. 0.5 out of 10 difficulty. Now we're on to Cognate Carnation. We're getting into the bosses that you should be cautious of, but the main difficulty of this one is from the flower that can spawn and fly around at the top of your screen. It's hard to take out while dealing with the boss himself and the other projectiles. But I found out if you parry the only parryable seed that falls in the first 2 phases, it just never grows, making this boss a walk in the park. 2 out of 10 difficulty. Last but not least, for aisle 1, we're on to Ribby and Croak. And this boss doesn't really change at all, thankfully. The only new difficulty is the fireflies in the first stage, but after that there's really no difficulty. You're always shooting from right to left, and you really can't miss, so 1.5 out of 10 difficulty. Just like that, we're already done with aisle 1, with very few hardships. And with that, we're on to aisle 2. Kicking off aisle 2, we're on to Baroness von Bonbon. And this one's partly RNG. If you get the Jawbreaker, it can be extremely annoying because you don't get very many chances to hit him. But if you get others like the Gumball Machine or the Candy Corn, Bonbon can start starting her will already. And the last phase is pretty simple, just keep dodging her head or somehow just glitch through it, I guess. RNG out of 10 difficulty. Now we're on to Beppy the Clown, and as much as I love this guy in the vanilla game, he isn't much fun in this challenge. He's not super hard, just really slow, and the second phase made me reset multiple times thanks to the balloon animals. But if you just get past that, the only thing you need to worry about are the penguins in the last phase, who as goofy as they are still a pain. 3.5 out of 10 difficulty. Now we're on to Grim Matchstick. Arguably the hardest non-airplane boss in the vanilla game is made no easier by having just a pea shooter with no charms or supers. The first phase isn't too bad, but it's the next 2 that make this boss one of the hardest in this run. For the second phase, you need to stay low to be able to hit him at all, but this puts you at a great risk of getting hit by the fire guys who jump up at you. And oh my goodness, this last phase of the boss fight, it's like trying to cut a knife with warm butter. If you hit the fireballs he shoots at you, they split into 4 and are awful to dodge, and dashing from platform to platform can get really hard while you're trying to focus on everything else he's doing. To beat this boss, I had to be content with having to take a ton of time on the last phase. 9 out of 10 difficulty. And with that, aisle 2 comes to a painful end. But we're one step closer to the end with only one more aisle and then King Dice and the Devil left. And let me tell you, Inkwell Aisle 3 does not disappoint. All of these bosses are near 10 out of 10 difficulties. Except one, of course. Werner Werman is still super easy. As much as I love his design and his music, he's always been on the easier side. Consider this one like a nice little rest point midway through. The only somewhat challenging part was the cat at the end of the fight, but if you just walk back and forth shooting diagonally, it's fine. 4 out of 10 difficulty. On to Captain Brimeybeard. In the vanilla game, he's not too tough, but in this one, not one phase is straightforward. You always need to be shooting diagonally or jumping while dodging the stupid barrel and all the other projectiles that are constantly being shot at you. But if it was just the first two phases, this one would be fine. The hardest one is easily the last one. Why, you may ask? Well, because only about 1 in 5 shots hit, prolonging the amount of time you need to stay alive by a ton. And I don't know if it's just me being bad at patterns, but the fireballs he shoots are fairly hard to keep track of, and it stinks. 8.5 out of 10 difficulty. With that, we're on to Rumor Hyndem. And this is the one that I was the most fearful of in this run. And I was spot on. This one is unbelievably tough. The first phase is fine, about on par with a lot of other first phases, except for the fact you have to be jumping from platform to platform upwards for it. But the second phase is when this difficulty starts getting packed on. My least favorite part of it is when she spits out the bullets, but it doesn't mean the other two parts of this phase are easy. When you finally get past that, though, is when I started rethinking this challenge. You either need to be super low, essentially toe-to-toe with her to hit her, or you need to be shooting downwards, which you can only do if you press the lock-on button, and this would make it way harder to dodge all the other rockets and projectiles. This boss is a 10 out of 10 difficulty. Into Sally's stage play, I presumed this would be one of the easier bosses to do in the third aisle. And if it was only the first two stages, I'd be right. There's not much to worry about here. It's the third and fourth stages that make this fight so painful. In the third stage, you can't hit her unless you're directly below her, or you're shooting at an angle, which is made even harder by the constant obstacles, especially the lightning. And then the fourth stage, which is supposed to be like a quick closing to the fight, is made 10 times harder by the fact that you can only hit her from below. If you jump, all the shots miss. If you go at an angle, you can only hit one or maybe two, going back and forth. But the umbrella chasing you at the bottom of this stage makes this fight so much harder. No joke, this boss is also a 10 out of 10 difficulty. Last but not least, for Aisle 3, we're on to the Phantom Express. And what a closing one this is. I'm going to break it down into each part to talk about it better because it's so much longer than the other fights. The first phase of this fight isn't too hard after you learn the pattern and how to deal with it. You just have to watch out for the pumpkins after that, who will mess up the whole fight if you miss them. But after some practice, the first phase isn't too bad. The second phase stays essentially unchanged. All you have to do is just watch out for the pumpkins again. The third phase is when it starts to get much more difficult. Not only is it hard to hit the two heads that go back and forth shooting at you, but the ghosts that go for you can ruin an entire run against the boss. They also are a lot harder to hit than the pumpkins. I found the easiest way to hit them is to shoot diagonally, and if they get past that, jump up and down shooting at them, and if they get past that, just start panicking. Thankfully, if you get all the way to the very edge of the cart, you don't have to worry about the two heads hitting you because they will just barely miss you every time. Most of the difficulty for the last phase is that most of the time you don't have much life after the past three. But if you have enough, you just need to constantly be shooting diagonally and 100% focused on the flames falling at you. If you do all of this, the fight results in a 9.5 out of 10 difficulty. With that, the only thing that stands between us and the devil is his right-hand man, King Dice. Thankfully, in the King Dice boss fight, most of the mini-bosses in it are left unchanged in difficulty. The only ones that did become much harder are Hocus Pocus and Piroletta, but I was able to avoid these fights by getting a feel for how the dice works and getting right to King Dice, who is left mostly unchanged as well. I've always found he was never that hard. All I had to do was stay under him and use the cards. 7.5 out of 10 difficulty. And now, it's time to face the devil himself, who does not disappoint in difficulty. No part of this fight is easy, and you have to be 100% focused on him for the entire fight. The first phase, which is possibly the hardest because of how long it takes and how many obstacles there are, has no real way of doing it efficiently, aside from just practicing and dying over and over again. The second phase is only somewhat easier because it's shorter, but the constant projectiles makes it pure bullet mayhem. If you manage past this, you're taken into Phase 3, which is at least twice as hard as Phase 2, with fewer platforms and more projectiles. And then the last phase is a total nightmare. You need to stand on the very edge of the platform to hit his eye at all. And you're put at a great risk of falling or being hit by the various projectiles, making this boss a fair 11 out of 10 difficulty. And with that, we've done it. We've beaten all 28 bosses of Cuphead without using any charms, supers, anything else that isn't auto-equipped. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to pass Mitchell Tulin in subscribers, and we're only 4 away. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing.